Jim Stewart, I'm Rick Collins, and this is Off the Bench. Today we're going to be talking U.S. men's national team soccer, this past weekend in college football, Monday night football preview, Sunday night football review, Giants versus injuries, and the Cowboys versus the Packers. Huge game yesterday, the Cowboys and the Packers. We talked about this in advance of this weekend. This was going to be the game of the weekend, and it was.
The beginning, the first drive was all over the place for the Cowboys. They couldn't get the run going, and then all of a sudden, they moved the ball down the field in ginormous, and I'm using the word ginormous plays, 30, 40 yards down the field. Butler had a huge catch. Dez was dynamic in the intermediate routes. I was really impressed, thinking this was going to be a big game, and then after the first drive, it really dried up.
Yeah, so the Cowboys really needed to, study the offense with the run, and they weren't really capable of doing that off the bat. Later in the game, they were able to use the run effectively to, manage the clock towards the end of the game. Unfortunately, they didn't quite manage it well enough.
No, Zeke and that offensive line look anemic. They really struggled to even get out of the backfield, whether it was pass or run. And that really continued on for the rest of the game. Zeke really looked mediocre for someone who was so dynamic last year. The real issue became what is going to happen for the rest of the year now that they play against a Packers team. They struggle against a Packers D-line that is not very good.
Yeah.
And Zeke couldn't get going, and they had to live off of Dak running the ball and throwing the ball downfield against really terrible defensive backs.
And he was capable of doing so. This was one of his best games so far this year. In fact, he moved up to the second position in QBR rating after this game. That last drive was very impressive. Unfortunately, right before that last drive, Terrence Williams wasn't able to come up with a catch, and that led to an interception, pick six. That was the turning point in the game. The Cowboys were able to manage the clock, keep Aaron Rodgers off the field generally throughout the game. They met the challenge that the Green Bay Packers offense brought. One turnover was the difference in this game.
And one of the most surprising and I think encouraging things out of the Cowboys defensive coordinator is they stuck with Jalen Smith. And I'm glad they are. The man is struggling. The rookie is struggling. Even though it is his second year, this is his first year on the field.
They don't really have much of a choice, though. I mean,
but I'm glad they're sticking with that.
Hitchens came back, but now Sean Lee's out. So they're going to have problems in that second level with the linebacker core that they have, especially when you have defensive backs behind them that are young and aren't really ready to step up. That's going to be their problem. The defensive line has to create pressure on quarterbacks going through the rest of the season, because otherwise this defense is in real trouble.
And on the other side, they had a player in Blake Martinez, third-round pick from the Packers 2 years ago, who really seemed to be Sean Lee. He was everywhere. He was almost in on every single tackle, or at least seemed it. He was in the backfield constantly in the first quarter, and he really came up with a lot of big hits. And that was one of the reasons why Zeke could not get started in the first half, or throughout the game for that matter.
Yeah, the Green Bay Packers really were able to stuff the run, and we're seeing that every week with the Cowboys, is they cannot get the run going early in the game when they need to be able to manage the clock early on, keep the ball out of Dak's hands, let Dak make plays when the defense is worn down in the second half. And they're not able to do that right now because they can't get the run going. They're dependent on Dak making plays. And I'm not sure that Dak is ready to do that through the rest of the season. We're 2-3 now.
And the Packers-Cowboys game was a complete opposite of what you thought it was going to be. Packers was all about the run and intermediate passes. Cowboys the run couldn't do anything, and all their plays were 10, 15 yard, 20 yards down the field, and that was kept them in the game. And they have the most accurate kicker in NFL history, Bailey, making sure that every time they come down the field, whether or not they score a touchdown, they're getting points.
Yeah.
And it really came down to a play where the offense put the ball in Dak's hands. And whether or not you're impressed with his ability to create and be really a field general out there, you got to really think, is this too much to put in basically a second-year player's hands to make the decision of run or pass? People can't tell if it was a designed run play or a designed run pass play, but they threw the ball, it didn't work. They gave the ball back to number 12 in Aaron Rodgers, and that was the worst thing they could have possibly done.
I don't care what the call was once it was on the field. Jason Garrett has to say at the point of the play going in, run the damn ball, because you cannot pass in that situation. You just can't. You're at 2nd and 1. Just get the dang 1 yard. If you don't get it, you're still in 3rd and 1. They're in the same situation. If they catch that touchdown pass, right, there's an additional, almost 10 seconds on the clock, right? So now Aaron Rodgers has 10 extra seconds. If they run the ball, there's 10 less seconds on the clock, right? So now we're talking about the difference between 20 seconds had he caught the touchdown pass. So just the idea of throwing the ball for the touchdown was dumb. It didn't make sense.
I think we're starting to see where Jason Garrett is on the coaching tree when it comes to the league. He's a good coach. He's not a great coach. He's been here for 8 years, and everybody acts like he's still a new coach. They go, oh, we just got to still give him time. He's been here 8 years.
This happens every year. We talk about these end-of-game situations where it's this one little call that doesn't go right, and Rodgers may still go down the field and score a touchdown. But if you look, there were 11 seconds left when they scored that touchdown. If those 11 seconds are gone because they decided to run the ball one more time, they're kicking a field goal instead of scoring a touchdown.
And not only
that's the difference in the game.
Not only that, they had to come down to a trick play to try to win.
Yeah.
This is not good. The last time we've seen a call blown so badly when it comes to decide to run or pass was in the Super Bowl when the Seahawks decided to throw the ball against the Patriots and not run it with beast mode. That was the last time we saw a play this badly called when it should have been a run.
Yeah.
It should have been a run. Everybody in the world knew it should have been a run, and they decided to pass because they thought, they were going to catch him off guard? Whether you catch him off guard or not, you don't want to make that throw. You want to grind the clock out.
Exactly. And and how many quarterbacks can we talk about? We don't want to give them the ball with a minute or more of time on the clock. There's only probably 2 quarterbacks in the NFL right now that you talk about that way, and one of them was playing against them on Sunday. You just can't do it. Aaron Rodgers and Tom Brady, do not let them have the ball last. Just don't.
No. And it's not fair to defenses when the best red zone target in the league is tied up with the best quarterback. Jordy Nelson has scored 15 touchdowns in the red zone in the last 21 games.
Yeah.
You can't beat that's better than Rob Gronkowski. And when you have, like you said, the best defense against Tom Brady or Aaron Rodgers, and it was the same when Peyton Manning was in the league, at the Colts especially, is keep them off the field. That's the whole point of that long methodical run drive at the end of the game with the Cowboys. They did it on purpose to keep Rodgers off the field, and for them to do such a good job and blow it at the end.
It's how the Cowboys have been for 8 years now. I love what Garrett can do off the field. I like what he does with the players. I think that his position in that draft war room is critical to the Cowboys getting the players that they need. The Cowboys that have made a difference on this team. But when it comes down to those last 2-minute drives, there's just something missing. And I'm not sure if it's they need to have somebody else over his shoulder saying, hey, remember this.
I'll tell you what's missing. It's Jerry Jones' loyalty. And the reason why I say that is his loyalty is so misplaced. He doesn't have loyalty towards Jimmy Johnson. He doesn't have loyalty towards Parcells. He has loyalty towards Wade Phillips, Jason Garrett, these coaches who are mediocre at best that have no track record. Yes,
Is that what
puppets.
we're talking about?
They are puppets. They do what he says and they don't argue back. And these coaches that know how to win, that know how to make those big decisions, that sit there and go, okay, this is on me. they're the ones that succeed. And those are the ones that Jerry Jones gets rid of.
Yeah.
Every single time he brings them on. We do great, and then he gets rid of them.
Well, next we got Sunday Night Football review, and then we'll get into more football with tonight's game, the Monday Night Football preview.
They'll test you. Try to break your will. But however loud the loudness gets, however many cheese puffs may fly, you're the driver, the one in control. Stand firm. Just wait. And move only when you hear the click that says they're buckled in for the drive. Never give up till they buckle up.
So, Sunday Night Football review, we've got Houston and Kansas City. Kansas City came out on top. Houston came out with 2 massive injuries. And going forward, without J.J. Watt and Merciless Whitney, they're going to have trouble. That defense was dependent on their defensive line creating pressure and not allowing running backs to get into space. They're not going to be able to do that without those 2 guys.
But the Chiefs didn't get away scot-free. Kelsey got a concussion, and that's going to be a major factor down the line, especially if it's something that keeps him out for more than 1 or 2 games. If they can get him back quickly, I think it bodes well for them. But they are, and they have proven to be, the best offense and defense in the league, the best team by far in the league this year. And I really think that goes down to Andy Reid and his drafting ability.
Well, they were really impressive offensively last night against the Texans defense that a lot of people thought was going to be one of the top 5 defenses in the league coming into this year. It was incredible what they were able to do in the run game. And what Kareem Hunt has done so far this year is I think fascinating is actually the best word, because really coming in, he was not expected to really be a factor at all.
No.
And now he's the best running back in the NFL.
It's him and Todd Gurley that are the 2 best running backs in the league. Hunt just with the fact alone that they are a run team.
Yeah.
Alex Smith, for some reason, when they drafted this new kid out
Pat Mahomes.
Pat Mahomes out of Texas Tech, it has put a fire behind Alex Smith. It is his best year by far in the NFL. He's gone from throwing 34% down the field to 67% completion percentage down the field. It has been an incredible sight to see, and it is really, I can't tell if it's bringing in the rookie or if it's Alex Smith playing out of his mind that has gotten this team to the point.
Part of it is having so many more options in the attack. I mean, he's got Taylor Gabriel out wide. Kelsey, and with Kareem Hunt. There's so many options in this offense, and the offensive line is one of the healthiest offensive lines. Coming into the year, we didn't think they were going to be the best offensive line in the league, but they've just been healthy, and that's helped them significantly, just keeping this momentum going. And 5 games in, they're 5-0. It's just hard to argue.
And it's very hard for a team that isn't healthy to play physical football, and they're playing physical football. They really have reincarnated themselves into what the Pittsburgh Steelers used to be. Run hard, big plays down the field. Kansas City used to be a physical defense and a okay running offense. In the 90s, that's what they were. They have really reverted back to what they were in the 90s with the Nigerian Nightmare and these plays down the field. I really don't see anybody in the league right now being able to compete with this team. Their defense is just way too good, and their offense takes way too much time off the clock. And
it was incredible. They had the ball for more than, I think, it was like 90% of the first quarter. And that's with J.J. Watt and Whitney being healthy on the field. Without them, Kansas City controlled the entire game.
The real key to this whole thing is they now have a quarterback in Alex Smith, even though they've had him for a while, but he's really opened up his abilities now. He's a pocket passing quarterback who now is being allowed to use his legs. He is a very athletic quarterback. People don't realize that. Yeah. He is fast. He is agile. Maybe he's not the greatest pocket escaper, but they get him on the move. He's very hard to stop. If there's no one to throw to, he has the wheels to be able to get that first down.
I hate to say this, but this is Andy Reid. Andy Reid was so successful with Donovan McNabb at Philadelphia,
with a running quarterback who is smart.
Yes, exactly. Made a smart running quarterback sit in the pocket and become a great passer down the field. He's doing the same thing with Alex.
And then he opens up the book. That's what they do. They get these athletic quarterbacks that come in. Reed goes, "You're going to stay in the pocket." And he makes them do it for 2, 3, 4 years. And then he finally goes, "Now that you've learned how to play in the pocket, let's open it up. Let's use your legs again."
Yeah.
And what is going on then is their legs have then been saved. They can use their legs now, because before, you get some tread on those tires. You look at a lot of these running quarterbacks, Kaepernick, they don't play, or they didn't play because he's not playing anymore, but he was the #1 running threat in the league when he was starting quarterback.
Yeah.
And after the first 2 years that he played, you could tell a discernible difference between what he used to be able to do and what he did do, because those hits, the quarterbacks do not take normal hits.
No. And Cam Newton, you're looking at the same deal there. He's learning to be a pocket passer. He had a great game against Detroit, who's one of the best defenses in the NFL. Phenomenal win for them. I really thought Detroit was going to win that game. Carolina winning that game proves that they are in the top echelon of teams right now. They're a team in the NFC that can make a move towards winning the NFC Championship. Really surprised, because after last year, I think we thought they've taken a step back. But now I think that they're a healthy team. They've got Funchess back. They've got McCaffrey now. And with Stewart, that's a dynamic offense. And with Cam Newton playing the way that they need him to play, not taking those big hits, they can be a great offense going into later into the fall.
Yeah, and yesterday the running backs were used as a hammer. They didn't gather a lot of yards. They just pounded into them so that the defense had to overcommit to the run and opened up a lot of lanes for Cam Newton to be able to throw down the field. The issue becomes there is these, other than Jonathan Stewart, these running backs are not built for that pounding. You know, Christian McCaffrey is 205 pounds maybe, and he's 5'11".
They've got to find ways to use him, and they did yesterday.
They put a fullback in front of him and let him run downfield. These shotgunned offenses is not the way he was meant to play.
They need to get him out in space, get him into the flats on passes underneath. The shovel pass that they ran was perfect. Jonathan Stewart going out wide as a threat out wide, Cam Newton taking that next threat, and then McCaffrey underneath. Nobody saw him because he's so small behind that offensive line. Perfect play for McCaffrey. That's the kind of stuff they need to get him involved in.
Yeah, that or get a fullback in front of him, like I said. What they're doing is they're taking these running backs out of college who, whether or not you agree, a lot of them come out of pro-style offenses where they're in the eye. They get a fullback in front of them. It opens up a hole, and they get to choose where they're going to run. And then when they do choose, they do a good job. Where all of a sudden they come into the shotgun, and by the time they get the ball, the defense is almost through the offensive line, and they usually have to bounce it outside and get out. They need to adjust their offense based on the skills of the players they have in the backfield. And they've done an okay job with Cam Newton. They've got to do that same job with their running back. What was the point of taking McCaffrey if you're not going to use him correctly? And to be honest, so far they haven't. They have had flashes, but they need to do more if they don't want him to just be a flash in the pan.
Yeah, this was his first rushing touchdown. Next we're going to go over it was the Chargers versus the Giants, but it ended up being the Giants against injuries. Next.
Maybe you can make retirement happen. After all, you made her college years happen. Opening that education savings account when she was little. Spearheading a campus tour. And another, and another, and another, and another. Bam! Deciphering financial aid. She was like, what? But now she's like, you aced planning for college. Now get the tips you need to get on track at aceyourretirement.org.
Everybody predicted this Giants-Chargers game to be unwatchable. I found it anything but. This was two goodness awful games. I don't want to say god awful, but I just did. So god awful games, teams that really, it was almost entertaining how horrible it was until the end, and then the end got crazy.
Well, somebody had to win this game. I mean, the Chargers.
Injuries won this game. Injuries won this game.
Yeah, and they won it for the Chargers because the Giants, they almost ran out of wide receivers. In fact, they had to take one of their tight ends and put him out as a wide receiver because they had nobody left. Odell Beckham Jr. obviously being the biggest injury issue
his
going
season is
forward.
Done. He broke his tibia. It wasn't an ankle injury like a lot of people thought. He broke his tibia. He was crying on the way out of the stadium. Then Marshall hurt his ankle.
Dwayne Harris.
The kid out of Oklahoma. Sterling Shepard. They all got hurt. And now I don't know what's going to happen because Eli Manning is not the greatest quarterback when his number one receivers are gone.
No, and
they don't have a running game either.
Had they lost just Odell Beckham, Sterling Shepard could play a number one wide receiver role. He has the talent and capability of doing so. He hasn't proven it yet, but he can do it. But the problem was they had no depth beyond him. Brandon Marshall really kind of fading in his career. But with those injuries, I don't know what they do because Sterling Shepard will be back.
How did we get to this point?
Dwayne Harris will be back, but I mean...
That's the question. How did we get to this point, Rick? How did we get to the point where the Giants are just completely out of options?
Well, they haven't been drafted well, and you give the general manager credit for getting Landon Collins, who's become a Pro Bowler, and he's a great player. Everybody kind of knew he was going to be a great player coming out of college, but he's the only guy from the past 4 or 5 drafts that's really done anything for him. In fact, if you look at last year's playoff teams, the Giants were the worst in terms of players drafted between 2009 and 2013 on the roster.
It's all free agents that they bring in.
All free agents. They haven't been able to develop young players, and they haven't brought in the right free agents. Yes, they've suffered from injury, but when you suffer from injury in the NFL, which you know is going to happen, every team is going to have to deal with it, you've got to have depth, and they just have not.
And it's not only that. McAdoo has done a horrible job with the staff that he has brought in. For instance, Sterling Shepard, he has the skills to be a very good number 2 or even a very good number 1. You barely hear about him at all. And he was great at Oklahoma, and you should expect him to be great. He has the same speed, maybe not the same hands as Odell Beckham, but he definitely has the same speed as Odell Beckham, and you barely hear about him. That is an issue, and it is proven the last 2 years that McAdoo does not know what he's doing on offense. He brings an archaic, slow offense that is so easy to discern that the only reason why he's done anything is because Odell Beckham can make catches that aren't humanly possible.
Yeah, and they have no running game to speak of. They haven't really brought anybody. Paul Perkins, I guess, is who they've been counting on to be a great runner for them the last couple of years. Exactly. They have not been able to bring guys in who are capable of making consistent plays. Odell Beckham Jr. was literally the only guy who could make it. Even Eli Manning. He is not the same Eli Manning as 2 or 3 years ago.
And that's not saying much. Eli Manning relied heavily on defense and relied heavily on players that caught unbelievable passes, helmet catches, side catches. He is not the greatest quarterback. He is not his brother.
Yeah.
What Eli Manning has done and what makes him so valuable is the fact that he never misses games. That's the only thing that is valuable about him. Yes, he makes decent passes, but without Odell Beckham Jr., he's a mid to high 50% rate in completions. That's it. And you have to be a 60-plus, mid to high 60s to be an effective quarterback.
Well, I can't believe that they did not draft a quarterback in this last draft in the first or second round because they are desperate for somebody who's going to develop into the next quarterback for them. They have to have somebody.
And they need to find someone who is able to move around in the pocket. Maybe it's a Baker Mayfield. Maybe it's a Lamar Jackson. They've got to find somebody who can make this offense work because they have to bring that next dimension. The way that McAdoo runs this offense, it's way too predictable. If they get someone who can actually move around, it might make this offense at least
watchable,
somewhat unpredictable.
Well, one of the things we have to give credit is the Chargers didn't lose the game. The Chargers actually won the game. So you have to give them some credit. Melvin Gordon is a great running back, and he's going to be phenomenal for them. He's helping Phillip Rivers out immensely. The Chargers defense is not bad. As long as they get really horrible teams on their schedule like the Giants, they'll be fine.
I honestly think that the reason why Chargers have been horrible this year is yes, it's a little bit on them, but I think it's been traumatic to go from San Diego to LA to a stadium that is tiny that they can't fill out. The fact that they don't feel loved where they are, the fact that probably consistently they're getting mocked and yelled at and all that on social media. They don't have a place to go. They have no home. And I cannot imagine a more horrible situation to be in as a franchise. It was a mistake to leave San Diego, and there are talks that they might go back.
Yeah.
But the issue is, if they go back, how long is it going to take that fan base to forgive them for what they did? And it's not even the players' fault, it's the ownership's fault. But they're going to blame the players, and it's not fair for the Chargers at all. And I think that's a big reason why they've struggled this year, because no one thought they were going to be winless into this game.
Yeah, a lot of people had them as a surprise team. So when we come back, we'll do a Monday Night Football preview. We'll get into a little college football, and then we'll talk U.S. men's national team soccer.
Marie, you have prediabetes.
Prediabetes? I don't have time to eat right or exercise. I'm a busy mom.
Oh, you're a busy mom.
Yeah.
This is great news. Busy moms never get prediabetes.
Wait, what?
Let me just... Yeah, this is all the people at risk for prediabetes, and way over here, busy moms. No?
The Vikings versus the Bears usually is a grinded out fight, but this year both teams are coming in either hurt or underachieving. You've got the Vikings, who are getting Sam Bradford back, which is great. They're getting their starter quarterback back. He is a game changer for them, at least.
He was phenomenal last year,
yes.
and coming into this year, people thought there's no way that he's going to be able to keep up what he did last year. But before he got injured, he was still playing at the level he was playing last year. So I think getting him back, people are very excited.
The issue is now they've lost their secondary engine to the offense, and that is Cook. It was a gruesome, horrible injury. He tore everything in his knee. And even if he does come back, I think he's not going to be the same person, because most major injuries you hear of that players come back and they're not themselves are like a single ligament tear. He tore everything.
I think the advantage that he has over somebody like Peterson, Peterson's injury.
Youth?
He's still young. And he's going to have a year or two to come back and still be young. That's the problem, that once you have those injuries at 25, 26, 27, you're out for a year or two, and you're still trying to come back. You come back, you're older. Your body's already had a lot of abuse, and now you're trying to come back when your body is already starting to break down as a running back in the NFL. He's still young. He doesn't have that much mileage
But
on his
I don't
tire.
see it. I think this injury, though the nerve damage isn't the same, I see this injury being as bad as the Jalen Smith injury. We don't know if there's any nerve damage, but that was just horrific. You don't see that kind of injury often, and when you do, in the past, they've been career-ending.
Well, maybe he's going to go to one of those spas where you do the cryogenic. No.
Yeah,
all that stuff.
using stem cells.
Magic clothing that Tom Brady wears and everything. I mean, there's so many things nowadays, and the surgeries are so much easier than they were, and non-invasive, and the recovery times. It's incredible how fast players are coming back from injuries. I think he comes back middle of next year. He'll be okay. Will he be as dynamic as we've seen him so far this year? Probably not. But if he can be 90%, 80%, he's going to be a great running back in the league.
But the real story for this game, not counting what has happened in the past couple weeks, but what is happening, this is the era of Mitch Trubisky.
Yes.
And I hope he doesn't struggle as much as his number one wide receiver has with the Cowboys. He had an amazing preseason. People were all excited. The question is, can he continue that excitement into the regular season? And to be honest, this is a great team to start against, because they have been underachieving all year. And I think they're on a road to recovery before the injury to Cooks. Now there's a team. This is a wounded team in the Vikings. I believe that Trubisky has a real shot in being effective.
And they're playing at Soldier Field. They're playing at home in front of the home crowd. It's a great opportunity for him to come in and play and to start his NFL career. The guy he's replacing wasn't playing well. I mean, Glennon hadn't gotten the Bears past 17
They can't
points
do worse.
this year. He was the third lowest QBR, only above Kaiser and Cutler, who have both been miserable on bad teams.
Kaiser has been benched, and Jay Cutler needs to be benched and sent to the play-by-play booth, and then put in the corner with a dunce hat.
hat?
Yeah, he needs to just go away.
It was a mistake for him to come back.
Yes, but Mitch Trubisky, he is an intelligent player. We've heard from the mouth of Ryan Switzer himself that he sees a lot in the same way of when it comes to thought process between Dak and Mitch Trubisky. He doesn't get flat. He's unflappable. He doesn't get rushed. He's always going to try to make the right decision. He's not going to push something if it's not there. A lot of the problems that rookies have up front, Mitch Trubisky didn't seem to have that problem. One of the things he's getting used to is in the pros, these receivers have a choice where they're going to run. And he's so used to wide receivers running exact routes that is, I think, the problem that most of these rookie wide receivers come in. And he was able to adapt in the preseason.
That offensive line has been able to run the ball well. Jordan Howard has been great this year. I mean, nobody really expected a whole lot from him. He was, probably on the cusp of being a top 10 running back last year, but the Bears' offense was so anemic that he had no space to run. Now you bring in Trubisky. Maybe he helps get this offense going. And Howard is a great weapon to use.
And he is another fairly mobile quarterback. I think you're going to see a lot of bootlegs. I think you're going to see a lot of motions. I think you're going to see a lot of stuff to mask the fact that he's a rookie. As long as he is able, I'm not looking for him to be a game changer right off the bat. If he can be a field general right off, not make mistakes, hit open receivers, and if no one's open, either throw it away or try to make some yard and slide, I think that would be a win in my book, whether they win the game or not. As long as he doesn't throw 3 or 4 picks, I think that's a successful outing.
And this is a move for the rest of the season. Mike Glennon's done in Chicago, same the way that Tom Savage was done. Obviously, Deshaun Watson has been incredible. He's got the highest QBR in the NFL for a rookie. And Houston's offense is very dynamic right now.
It was, at least at the beginning. During the game yesterday, he did really well in the first couple drives. By the third quarter, he only had 60 yards throwing.
Yeah, but you've got to look
4 of 12 by the third quarter.
We're past that game. Let's not review the old game. That's
highest QBR.
In the past. He still has the highest QBR. So that says he's the best quarterback in the league.
Okay.
End of story.
Take him for your fantasy football league.
So you're replacing a guy with the third worst QBR. Honestly, it can't get worse for him.
I agree.
And for the Bears. He'll be better than that. Will he be good enough for the Bears to make a run? I don't think so.
Strive to be a game manager.
But
let's take it one game at a time. Let this rookie be a rookie.
Yeah.
That is the issue that a lot of these teams have.
And they're in a place where they have to.
Yeah, they get a high draft pick, and it used to be 20 years ago that those rookies would sit for a year or two to learn. And if major injuries happened, that was the only way they saw the field.
Yeah.
Now, these rookies are thrown right in. They've been labeled because of their draft, the draft ranking, where they were drafted at, that they are franchise players. The question is, they have to develop into franchise players. You're not going to go from college to a franchise player unless you're Peyton Manning.
Or Deshaun Watson.
Or Deshaun Watson.
So far, so good.
We just need to let him have some time.
Yeah.
And I agreed with Dak. At the beginning, everybody got so hyped, and I said, let's give him some time. He shined last year. Let's hope that he is able to do the same thing in Chicago in Mitch Trubisky that Dak did here, and the league would be better for it.
Yeah, for sure. And the NFC North obviously is such a popular division throughout football with the Packers, the Vikings, the Bears. Oh my. Well, we could say the Lions, too, I guess. The Lions have been great this year. But the Bears have to win this game to have even the slightest chance of winning the NFC North, which I think has already slipped away, honestly, with the way the Packers played yesterday against the Cowboys. Really, they have to win this game. The Vikings, they need to win this game just to keep momentum going. I think getting Bradford back, hoping that he's going to look good, and that they can run the ball. Latavius Murray has to come in and be a capable runner. He has to be the Latavius Murray of 2 years ago, because if not, I don't think Bradford sees nearly as many open receivers.
And when we come back, we talk about college football.
Exciting weekend.
Oh,
more football,
yeah.
There's always more football.
Oh. this weekend on Saturday, it was a heartfelt loss for the Oklahoma Sooners. I, as an Oklahoma Sooner fan, are the biggest fan. I've been told before, stop talking about them during the shows so much. And I am also man enough to say that this defense that they have a world-class offense, but this defense is horrible, letting Baylor have almost 500 yards, letting this team run all over them. I don't think they deserve to be in the top 10 at this point. They have a top 2 offense, but with this defense, they're not even in the top 10. I am man enough to say that. I hope they can run the table and try to get back in if they make some changes, but at this point, really with this defense, they have no shot.
Well, luckily, they have Texas coming up this weekend. It's Red River Rivalry Weekend. Ooh, that tongue twister. And it'll be... I think it's almost impossible for Texas to win this game, but we've seen crazier things happen in the past with this game. So,
like this past weekend.
So I wouldn't be surprised if it's a fun game. Obviously, Oklahoma's going to make it fun always because their defense is struggling right now.
And their offense is good.
Yeah, and the offense is great.
So they make every game an exciting game. For instance, I was astonished how good Montgomery was for Iowa State. He looks to be a top 5 running back in the NFL. Could be. I see.
In the NFL draft.
Yeah, in the NFL draft. I have no idea if he's a junior or not, but man, he was explosive. He was hard to tackle. He's low to the ground. He had agility like I haven't seen on someone who was built like Jones-Drew was.
Yeah, Maurice Jones-Drew.
Yeah, he looks like the real deal. And I think the OU defense and any defense that they play against has to focus on him so hard, it does leave a lot of players open.
Yeah, we always talk about Oklahoma, Oklahoma State, Texas, and TCU right now as being kind of the top 4, and Texas is really kind of a step down from those top 3. Nobody really talks about K-State or Iowa State. Both of those,
for good reason.
Yeah, and for good reason in the past. But those teams are decent this year, and nobody's going to walk in to either of those stadiums and just walk out with a win. Both
and they
of them are going to
did
be
that
challenges.
At Norman. And the sad part is that team hadn't won in 18 games.
Yeah.
Iowa State had gotten whooped for 18 games.
Yeah, at Oklahoma.
Oh, why did it have to happen this year? There was so much hope.
All right, well, we got other games, too, that happened this week.
None that mean anything after Saturday.
TCU moved up to number 6 after the win against West Virginia. We talked about it. They needed to win that game if they expected to win the Big 12 or have a chance at winning the Big 12 and to have a shot at getting into the playoff. They have a shot. I think Oklahoma, after this loss, it's going to be really tough.
If they run the table, they have a shot because they can get the Big 12 championship. But I'm more impressed by Penn State, Clemson, and now Georgia moving up into the playoffs. Penn State, that running back is the real deal.
Yeah, Barkley, he's definitely going to be one of the invitees to the Heisman Trophy.
And to the Combine.
Into the Combine. He's going to be definitely one of the top, 4 or 5 running backs. But there are a lot of people who think Love is actually a better running back. Anyway, Alabama and Clemson were able to hold on to those number 1 and number 2 spots despite tough games against A&M and Wake Forest, respectively. A&M was able to come back late and make it somewhat of a game. I mean, this was a 26-point spread to begin the weekend. And they ended up losing by 9. I call that a win in A&M's book because Alabama expects to beat people by 21 every game.
Yeah, I totally agree, and I am off camera right now, but you can listen to the soft tones of me. But the issue is TCU, there are a lot of players that are now moving up into the playoffs, up into the top 5, top 10. And TCU, OSU, you've got, like we said, Penn State, we have Georgia. Your brother must be thrilled.
He is very thrilled.
That quarterback also looks like he could possibly be someone who could be special at the next level. He's thick. He's built really well. He looks like he can take
and
a
the
hit
running
and throw
game
down
with
the
Chubb
field.
has been phenomenal for them this year. I mean, they can move the ball. The challenge for them is going to be when they come up against the big boys, are they going to be able to defend the way they've been defending so far this year? That would be my concern for Georgia moving forward.
Then we've got to look at the bottom of the barrel when it comes to Texas football. You've got Baylor, who is continuing to be winless. You've got SMU, who struggled and had a horrible loss against Houston.
Yeah, they had to have that game to have a chance at the AAC championship. That loss, I think, puts them out. There are things that they can build from this year, but it's going to be a struggle for them. UCF is one of the powerhouses. Obviously, Houston is not as bad as we might have thought. And then we talk about, Baylor remaining winless. They're not going to win the next game. Oklahoma State is going to bury them, and
hopefully better than Oklahoma did.
Can Baylor get a win this year?
No. I don't just look at their struggles because at this point they're meaningless. No, other than Baylor fans, there's nothing really to root for. Then you look across and you start looking at the people that claimed the top Heisman hopefuls, the top players that they thought would be drafted. Eric Darnold. Really,
Sam Darnold.
Sorry, Sam Darnold. He's not even worth remembering right now because he has so many interceptions.
Yeah.
Then you have Lamar Jackson, who struggled against NC State.
He's still putting the numbers up. The problem is that the numbers are not leading to wins, and Louisville's defense is bad. But he was sacked 4 times. He threw an interception. I don't think that's as much about him as it is about how much better North Carolina State is than we thought. I think North Carolina State's a legit team. They're a top 25 team right now. But that game against Louisville, that's impressive.
Dennis Smith Jr. was very happy about that game. I think we're about 2 or 3 weeks away for the real rankings to start coming out. Right now, they're all been preliminary. These rankings aren't real so far. So when we get closer to the end of October, then you start seeing the real rankings of playoff, people who are going to be in the playoff. The issue becomes now, is this starting to show who the cream of the crop is? Or are we going to see more all over the place
I think
rankings?
the top 2 are set in stone. I think Clemson and Alabama are the 2 best teams
the rest is in flux.
The country. I think the rest is in flux. I think you see Georgia is a lot better than people thought. And I think Penn State, they would have to fail pretty miserably, I think, to fall out. But the Big Ten is the Big Ten. From week to week, you don't know. Wisconsin's a great team.
Michigan got killed this
Michigan
weekend.
State is clearly a good team. Michigan's not as good as we thought, but they're still a good team. Penn State does not have an easy road to hoe, but if they do hoe it, they're a top 4 team. Easily, because the Big Ten has so many ranked teams. The top team from that conference is going to be in the playoffs.
So right now, out of the first 2, who do you think will be at that finish line at the end of the year? Now that we're starting to see the cream of the crop come, the parity is starting to end.
I think the problem Clemson has is they can't really throw the ball down the field. And I think to attack Alabama's defense, let's say they're the final 2, I think it's going to be a challenge for them. I think they can still run the ball, but they're not going to be as effective as they have been in the ACC.
It's going to be hard to run the ball against Alabama defense that's huge.
Yeah, you can run the ball in the ACC. If you can run the ball effectively, you can be a very good team in the ACC. You have to be amazing at running the ball in the SEC to run the ball effectively.
And you have to commit to it.
Yes.
You have to commit to it.
And Alabama is the only team so far in the SEC that has been running the ball effectively the entire season. They can throw the ball as well. Clemson has not been able to throw the ball nearly as effectively as they need to be.
They haven't played really anybody. So they have smashed the people they needed to have smashed. They really haven't played too much. The ACC is not a powerhouse conference. There isn't a ton of.
They're moving up, but they're not there yet.
But outside of a few teams, Clemson's schedule is not. It's not cookie cutter, but it's not hard. It's not the upper.
No, it's not Penn State or Alabama's schedule.
It's an average team. Yeah. It's almost as bad as going into They're even lower than the Big 12. There are 2 or 3.
I don't know. I might argue that.
There are 2.
I think we'll have to say that
there
one for
are 2
later.
or 3 top 10 teams in the Big 12.
Well, we'll have to look at the ACC. You'll have to look at the ACC. We'll look at the ACC more later. After this break, we're going to have some U.S. men's national team soccer talk because huge win against Panama last week. We talked about it. They needed to win that game.
You were praying to Joe Boo, weren't you?
They got the win. My prayers to Joe Boo were answered.
Maybe you can make retirement happen. After all, you made her college years happen. opening that education savings account when she was little, spearheading a campus tour, and another, and another, and another, and another. Bam! Deciphering financial aid. She was like, what? And now she's like, you aced planning for college. Now get the tips you need to get on track at aceyourretirement.org.
The U.S. men's national team took care of business at home against Panama. They have not been good on the road, but this game at home, that's a phenomenal way to get a win that you needed to get.
Yeah, Altidore was huge in this game. The real question is, can he do this on a consistent basis? He has not been really consistent in any of his gameplay. He looks to be back into the shape he was when we went to the Olympics, and he was a rising star, but he is a physical freak. His skills are not quite up to where you think they would be on a national team, though his physical ability cannot be overlooked. It really was the new 19-year-old kid who made this thing go.
Well, and it was the fun he was having on the field, and you hadn't seen that in so long. All the cards that he's gotten because of his frustration, and part of that is he hasn't had the guy sitting behind him that could fill the lanes that he needed to have filled so he could get opportunities on goal. Christian Pulisic is providing that now, and I think with Christian Pulisic, playing the 10 role in the middle of the field, that's going to be huge for the U.S. men's national team moving forward.
The fact that they don't have to lean on Bradley to be on offense, to be the offensive cog, is huge.
Yes.
He does have defensive ability, but his offense when he was the focal point of the offense moving up the field, the team struggled mightily. And there is a place for Bradley. I've been told there is a place for Bradley. I am not a Bradley supporter. But you know what? I have to take into account he is a good defender. He does seem to be in the right place. He does seem to be able to shut down those passing lanes. But the fact that now we have an offensive-minded midfielder, the fact that we have someone who can push the ball up the field with accuracy and some pace is huge for the U.S.
Yeah, and you saw the first goal right off the bat. Christian Pulisic makes a great run, dribbles past the goalkeeper, puts it in the back of the net from an angle.
Is he the U.S. Messi? Is he?
Well, I hate to say yes. I want to say yes because he has the capability to do the things that Messi does for Barcelona.
Fast, quick.
For the U.S. men's national team.
Is a creator off the dribble.
Yes.
One touch, has skill.
He's not quite as skilled, obviously, as Messi is, but
and he's not as
for
short.
a U.S. men's national team that doesn't need,
a singular player,
a guy to be like that. He is.
Whoa,
he
now,
is the guy that
whoa, now. We would take a Messi.
Oh yeah,
I
know.
Don't say we don't need him.
There aren't any Messis as far as I know in the U.S. So.
But he is, in a lot of ways, Messi was the person who really brought Argentina out of the dark ages when it came to players coming out that were just dominant. And the real thing is I think this is the U.S. version of Messi. Yes, he's not as skilled, but
Messi light.
Yes, and it is. But people don't realize, in some ways, he is a bigger jump from what we're used to what Messi is than Messi was in Argentina.
Yes.
Argentina had better players forever, and then Messi was a big leap.
Well, remember, we've got all these sports here. You're not going to have the best soccer.
Yeah, but the leap for the U.S. between our normal players and this new kid, you need to be in the enterprise and go to warp 10 and go forever to be able to see how big that leap is for us.
And Panama's not terrible. Panama is a good team in CONCACAF. They're not a great team in CONCACAF, but they're a good team. And they're especially a good defensive team. And for Christian Pulisic to do what he did against a very good defensive team shows that he is the guy, he is the future of this team. Like it or not, for better or for worse, he's the future of this team. And what he provides for Bobby Wood and for Dempsey when he plays and for Altidore up front is the creativity that is needed for those guys to finish.
And that was something we were lacking.
Yes.
We survived solely on crosses for the last two World Cups.
And the kick and chase.
And the kick and chase. Now we have someone who can actually penetrate the defense on dribble alone.
Yes.
He's someone who can catch the ball in the box, juke two guys and still get a shot on goal.
Yeah.
Where we didn't have that before. It was always the ball would go in and pop back out because you'd have to either pass it or shoot it with the players we had.
And luckily, he's still young, which is incredible for a guy that is this young to play the way he's playing.
Well, for a U.S. I mean,
Yes,
you know,
the US.
Messi and Ronaldo and all those guys were where they are way before
But we
19.
would never count on that stuff.
But what's interesting is now he is, you know, this young kid is now playing in Bundesliga, and he's one of the best players in Bundesliga. At 19, I can't stress enough, if this is the kind of players we are starting to produce, we've got a bright future. And I think in the next 2 to 3 World Cups, as well as Olympics, I think we have a chance to either get into the Final Four.
Final Four is the goal right now.
Yes.
If we can get into the Final Four, that's a huge win for the U.S. men's national team. Now, there are still concerns. The back three, as they've been playing, I'm not convinced that we have a center back in place right now that can play the center of that back three. I like what we did with Villafaña, Yedlin when he comes back. You've got guys who can play those fullback positions, who are burners, who are good at crossing. They're quick on defense and can cut off offensive players. But the center is the issue. We've always played a 4-4-2 or something along those lines where you have 4 backs and playing the 2 center backs. We've been very comfortable with that. We've had great players who can fit into those roles in the 2 center backs. We don't necessarily have that guy who can manage the entire defense from that one center back.
I feel like
position.
we haven't had that since Zimmerman left.
Yeah.
I thought Zimmerman did a great job. He might not have been the most athletically gifted player, but he really did, in my opinion, help that defense organize. He always was talking. He always was letting them know. He was that center back that you needed. I'm not saying he's the ultimate center back. I'm not saying he's a future, but since he left, it has been a bit of disorganization.
Well, Omar Gonzalez filled that role, and he looks out of shape. I don't know that his communication skills are the best. I still see issues back there. I think Jeff Cameron is the best option when we're going with 3 back. He has the athleticism. He's big enough to take on any of the biggest offensive players. His footwork is so much better than any of the other center backs we have. We have to depend on his health, and if he can play that role, I think they should have him there. But
who do you see
I
in
still
MLS?
think it's a concern.
Who do you see in MLS that they need to bring up for these positions?
Well, Hedges is clearly the best player in MLS that
Defensive
isn't
back.
getting play in the backs. And I think part of that is that he's younger. He's had injury issues, but when he's fully healthy, I think that center back position, I think that should be his. Now, is he going to be able to play in a 3-back setup? I'm not sure, because FC Dallas plays 4-back. So there would be concerns still about formation. But as far as athleticism, skill, the way he plays, he's one of the best defensive players in MLS.
When we come back this week, we're going to be covering the review of Monday Night Football. We'll dive a little bit into the Mavs, and we will talk about the upcoming NFL and college games this weekend, including the Red River rivalry.
Yeah, and tomorrow night, Trinidad Tobago, U.S. going down there. Got to get a win. I mean, they should win. After this game against Panama, they have to win that game.
This is Off the Bench.